Today I am here with a very interesting piano that has a rather interesting past, and it's probably a name that you have never heard of before. Now, pianos that are made in England are very hard to come by, and there are only a handful of English piano manufacturers at any time, and this was one of them. This is a Minx piano. In the corner here it says Minx miniature piano. There's a couple patent dates that says it's registered, patent number 4328667, and then another registered numbers, and then a couple registered numbers. So this was actually made on Abbey Road, which might sound familiar to you because that is actually where the Beatles had their recording studio. It was on Abbey Road. So this Minx Piano Company, unfortunately, which was destroyed in World War II, could have only been a couple blocks away from where the Beatles had their recording studio, which I think is really cool. Now, where the history of this piano gets particularly interesting is the previous owner of this piano bought it through Christie's auction house and was told at the time that it actually had some sort of a link to John Lennon himself. Now, that the link, unfortunately, cannot quite be authenticated. There's no guaranteed proof that John Lennon once owned this piano, but it was rumored, and the previous owner was told, that this piano once was John Lennon's personal piano. Again, there's no pictures of him with it, or there's no records of him owning it, but if that is true, that's very, very cool. Now, since this piano isn't really for sale, the people here at the shop don't really take the time to ever tune the piano, so I'm not really going to do any playing on it, as you can hear. It is quite out of tune, and that's simply because it's not really for sale. It's in the back room of the office, but the guy here who runs the store has been kind enough to let me come back into his office and do a video on this piano. And if you're curious where I found this piano, as well as the many other things that are awesome here at the store, I'll put the information for the store in the description of this video because it's a really awesome store, and they have really cool things, such as this. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting is the music desk here is quite standard on upright pianos. It's just a little wooden flap that folds down, but also it has these little metal pegs that come up, and then that helps hold your sheet music. So if your sheet music wants to slump forward, it's going to be caught by those little metal pegs, and that's quite a very nice design feature. Now, you're also probably noticing these big metal hoops, and you're probably wondering, what in the world are those? Well, actually, there is a little light bulb screw, and it's not really a screw. It's kind of like two prongs that a light bulb would fit into. But since this was made in England, English power doesn't work with American outlets, and so the light bulbs that would go in here, unfortunately, do not work. And but it's the little holders are still left there, so you can kind of imagine what it would have looked like with little light bulbs there, and I think it would have looked really, really cool with the light bulbs there. Now, as you can probably tell by the style of this piano, it was probably made during the 1950s. It kind of has like that 1950-ish kind of like futuristic, like not quite Art Deco, but like a bit of a later style. It just has a 50s look to it. I mean, we have a very unusual black key texture here as well. They're not black, they're brown. And basically what is going on here is they're plastic topped, I believe, and that's a pattern made to imitate tortoiseshell. And so we have that going on the top, and then these, I assume, were once white, but it must have sat in the sun for a while, and now the white keys are now the yellow keys. But as you can tell, it's all original, which is what makes this kind of cool, and it's all original to the original piano. We have two pedals down here, only two pedals. We have a right pedal and a left pedal. The left pedal probably is a soft pedal, and it looks like that is functioning because if you look at the keys, they move a little bit as the hammers get shifted farther away from them. And the right pedal is, of course, a damper pedal. Now, the legs on this piano are kind of interesting. They're kind of like an oval-shaped post that then kind of comes down and then curves into the bottom of the piano. I've seen that design done a couple of other times with pianos from this time period, so I guess it was a popular look back in the day, and it's kind of neat. The piano has a very cool look. When I close this fall board, you can see also that this piano has a very interesting design. Again, it looks quite 1950s, especially if I close this little cover here. It becomes quite sleek and very interesting looking. Now, if we open up this top here, we can also take a look at the inside here of the piano. We have a little sticker over here that says, to remove action of Minx miniature piano, take out the 4 thumb screws under key bottom. Keys can then be moved forward, making room for action to be released and lifted out. So it sounds like it's a very complicated and unusual way to remove the action on this piano. It also has a very interesting design of drop action. The drop action is designed so that a piano can be very short and therefore very small and very compact, but the way it works is the end of the key lifts up a rod that then goes down into the action and lifts up the action components, making them work. And usually that rod is directly connected to the key, but in these cases, there is a a little piece of wood here that screws onto the back of the key, and then that connects to the rod, and it looks like you could probably just lift that out and then take the key out as well. So that's a very interesting design. As you can see, it can kind of swivel, and if you look at some of these, they're a little bit twisted because the wood has swiveled and they're not quite lining up in the proper way. So that's very interesting. I've never seen that method of drop action before in the piano, and it's a very unusual design. Underneath here is a serial number that you probably can't read, but it says 60219. So if there's, I don't know if there's records for the Minx Piano Company, but if there are and anybody wants to do some research on that, I would love to find out. And if any of you guys don't mind doing that, that would be really cool. As I said, it says 60319. That's the serial number, 60319. And it's really hard to see because it's under the bass strings, but that is the inside of the Minx miniature piano. So hopefully you found this very interesting. It's a piano unlike any other that I have ever seen, and it's very, very unique and very, very interesting indeed. So if you found this interesting, you might want to go check out my channel. I've got quite a few videos by now on small and unusual and miniature pianos, and they're all really, really cool, and they're very, very special. So if you think that sounds interesting, you might want to go check out my channel. And if you like that, you might want to think about subscribing. And if you do subscribe, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. And once again, the link for the information for the store that I'm at today is in the description of the video if you want to come visit. Okay, everybody, I have a bit of an update on this Minx piano. Now, when I saw it, I guessed that based on the styling of it, it was from the 1950s, but it actually turns out it's older than I thought it was. This piano, the Minx piano, was made in 1938, and it was actually owned by a British company called Kemble. Now, I've played on a larger Kemble upright, and it was a very, very nice piano, and it's kind of interesting that Kemble actually owned Minx, which is another British-made piano, and Kemble owned Minx during 1938, which is when this piano was made, so it's kind of a Kemble piano. So anyway, just a bit of an update on the Minx piano.